Hey guys, so I had thoughts today about still same scale, C major, still dealing with the first scale, first guy. My thought had to do with the reason when I started writing music with this scale today. I wrote one thing, just like I noticed that I kept the way that my ear was leading me through it compositionally was here's my thought. Okay, my intuition was to minorize, to start seeing this C major scale with these added notes, E flat and A flat, as some sort of variation on a Dorian. Because sort of in terms of like shape, I'm familiar with all of it, but it's just, I really do see that Dorian shape very clearly on the guitar, and to just seeing those added notes as like Dorian with a flat 2 and a flat 5 was somehow easy for me. But when you start writing music, the music doesn't seem to revolve around the melodies you sort of, for me at least, that seem to be coming out of this scale, didn't use D as a tonal center. The thing that I kept doing naturally was fishing out these like 3 tonalities, major tonalities and minor tonalities that were living inside this scale, right? The C major with an A flat and an E flat. So I have C major 7, E major 7, and A flat major 7, all living here. And I noticed that like I was sort of moving a lot between the melodic, coming up with melodies maybe with common tones like I don't have a B flat, sorry. Something like that. Or minor major 7, C minor major 7, A flat minor major 7, and E, like E minor major 7. Those sounds I kept going between. And then I was thinking, okay, so what subsets of that 9 note scale has all 3 of those? And C augmented, the 6 note symmetric scale has it. So the notes of C augmented are C, D sharp, E, G, A flat, and B. So it's a symmetric scale that goes minor third half step, minor third half step, minor third half step, right? Now, I didn't spend enough time with that. It's like, to me, that scale was something I always kind of, I knew, like, there are a few, like Bob Berg and Michael Brecker licks that I always knew, like, that are like my augmented scale shit, which really do that thing. It goes from an E triad to a C triad to an A flat triad, back to a C triad or to an E triad, and it's really like, it's the same idea that like Giant Steps and Countdown, all the Coltrane tunes are built on, right? You have like keys that are major thirds apart, and that scale sort of, it's symmetric, so it's the like C augmented has the same notes as E augmented and the same notes as A flat augmented. They're just inversions of each other. They have the same kind of relationship that diminished has, just with augmented. Now, what is that scale? How can you express it? So it could be, you can think about it like a B augmented triad and the C augmented triad put on each other. And then the inversions of that will tell you that you have D sharp augmented, E augmented, and also G augmented, A flat augmented, right? Because these three chords are the same and these three chords are the same. So together you have that. Now if you lay that scale out 3 notes per string, you start getting those Holdsworth shapes, right? Because 2 notes per string, it's just kind of a minor third up. It's a minor third interval in major thirds. That's one mode, and then the other mode is just a half step in major thirds. So the first thing you can do is just play 3 notes per string from either, I would just say 2 modes, because next place it's just an inversion of the last one, because there are only 2 modes of this scale. The rest of them are completely symmetric. So the first step you can do is add a note on the string you're playing, like let's say it's C, so C, D sharp, E, and then move that exact shape in major thirds. You'll have a false fingering, meaning you'll have the same note in 2 strings. You'll have, so that top note keeps being repeated. But if you're playing a pattern that doesn't end up on that note, you can get a cool line, right? Or that's one mode, and then the other one would be the other Holdsworth shape, minor third. So this is minor third half step, and you have half step minor third, and they move in the same end. So, and this is a subset of that scale. So you can start, let's call this like mode 1 of this thing on C, E, and A flat. So whenever you have that inside, like let's say you're playing on a C major 7 to E major 7, so you can go. And you'll be in, just by seeing that drop note scale. So what would be the chord progression to play? So yeah, that's the broad question. So like, let's say now I have a chord progression that goes C major 7 to A flat major 7, or even the dominant, or I mean Lydian, to E Lydian, and all 3. So like to get a Holdsworth kind. It's a little bit out, but if you think about what those notes are on these chords, it's not as out as it seems, right? What does it give you on a C, right? Or in an E or in an A flat? It's symmetric, so it works the same way on all 3 of those. It gives you the root, the sharp 9, which is dissonant on a major chord, the 3rd, which is inside, the fifth, which is inside, a sharp 5, which really is the sound, and a major 7. Those are the 6 notes in. So in terms of application on those chords, it's out. It's a little bit out, but it's pretty consonant. Now, if you ask yourself what other chords you can build using that scale, right? The drop note scale, the 6 note scale. So, okay, you have a major 7. You have a major 7 sharp 5. You have a minor major 7. And then you have a really weird one, which is sort of, I don't even know what to call it. I think about like an A flat minor triad with C in the bass, right? But it has a root, a flatted third, a sharp 5, and a major 7. So minor 7, minor major 7, sharp 5. It's not really a chord. It's more like an inversion of an A flat, right? It's like you have an A flat minor with C in the bass. So it's a chord with it's a bass note, and the chord is like a flatted 6 away, but it's a minor chord, which is a really out there kind of sound. But you have it, right? That's inside this weird scale. You have it starting like inside the 9 note scale we were talking about. You can have it on C, on E, and on A flat, right? Because on top you would have an A flat minor triad, then you would have a C minor triad, and then you would have an E minor triad. So all those sounds harmonically are inside the augmented scale. And that's just one of the 2 modes. Now the other mode is stranger. Pardon me being slow, I'm just figuring it out as I'm going along, because all of a sudden it's useful for me. Now, so okay, that's the mode starting on C, E, and A flat. But the scale also has a B, D sharp, and G. So that mode, what does it have? It has a root, flat 2, third, so that's fairly normal. Then it has a 4th, which is abnormal, a sharp 5. Here's the kicker. It has a double flatted 7th or a 6, whatever you want to call it. So it doesn't make like some kind of functional chord, because it doesn't have a 7th, and it has a double flatted 7th, but it doesn't have a flatted 5th, so you can't call it diminished or something like that. So the only way I could conceptualize that chord would be some kind of like dominant sound, like an altered sound without a 7th at all, so nothing there will clash. So it gives you like root, flat 2, 3, which is in a dominant, 4, which is in some dominants. Then that sharp 5 we'd call like a flat 6, and then